Hello and welcome. I am not seeing myself on. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's. I just saw everything is going. Welcome to my first boomer moment. Let me change over for you, which doesn't work. Wow, what a start. Anyway, welcome to the first episode of Escape Alive, which is my very live stream, as you've seen, and about travel, about this, about that, about everything, as you'll find out. This stream, I'm just going to sort of introduce what I'm doing, who I am, why I'm doing this, and from there, hopefully, it'll get better. You'll have to excuse me. This is the absolute first time I've ever done it, so it is what it is, folks. One thing before I forget is please comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me grow. It helps the algorithms know that people are interested in it. And it means that I'll stay motivated to continue producing content for you. Hopefully, it'll become more interesting over time. Anyway, so let's get started. Why am I doing this? What is my story? I guess the impetus of this channel has a lot to do with the lockdown and the way it affected me. Um, I was pretty hard hit by the lockdown. I got very depressed at the beginning of it, but I was really able to focus and get better. And what I really noticed is that there were two kinds of people during the lockdown. There were people like myself who I really started focusing more on my health. I lost about 45, 50 pounds, changed my diet. I became a lot more energetic, a lot more active, and I'm in probably much better shape than I was 10, 15 years ago, which is good. But I also noticed there's a lot of people who were affected completely in the opposite way. And unlike me, they became more isolated. They became less active. They were spending more time getting, well, quite frankly, going crazy over stuff on the internet or watching television with all the news that's going on, and became more and more isolated. And it really had an effect on things. I moved to Toronto probably about 15 years ago. And what I really always loved about the city was the vibrancy of all of its different neighborhoods. You can literally, from where I am in Little Italy, jump on a streetcar and you're half an hour away from being in Little India, which is a completely different experience. And Toronto is just filled with that. It has to be one of the most multi-ethnic communities in the world, along with a few other cities like Los Angeles. And one of the biggest effects of the lockdown, I find, has been really the effect on small businesses and interesting businesses. And many of them have closed. And it's really unfortunate because I think it's torn apart the whole fabric that really made Toronto a great place to be in. And is part of the reason why I'm now looking to plan my escape and find some new place to go. Because I mean, I really want to spend the rest of my time enjoying my life rather than being worried for my life, if that makes any sense to you. And this podcast, and specifically this part of it, which is going to be interviews and talking to people, is trying to figure out and basically negotiate my way out of Canada into a life of either slow travel or maybe spending some time in a place like Mexico. Why Mexico? Well, there's a number of reasons which we'll get into. Part of the reason is I know it well and quite like it. And I was lucky enough to recently spend a wonderful 2 weeks in this beautiful little community called Puerto Morelos, which was just a great experience. And it was one where I met a lot of people. And well, let's step back. for anyone who doesn't know, Puerto Morelos is located along the Riviera Maya in I guess it's the extreme easternmost part of Mexico on the Yucatan Peninsula in a state called Quintana Roo. And Puerto Morelos is basically right in the middle between Cancun, which most people know, a big international airport, and that famous strip of all of those resort hotels right on the pristine beach, and Playa del Carmen, that I knew quite well, having spent, well, I guess 2 or 3 weeks there in past trips, which is a very vibrant place. And I think it has quite a different feel. Puerto Morelos is quite different from both of them. It's a unique, weird little community, because what you have is a small, little, beautiful, touristic beach resort that used to be a fishing village, surrounded by mangroves that are all protected. And then behind that, nearer to where the hotel, where the highway is that runs from Cancun basically all the way to the capital that's near Belize, a second town called Colonia, where life of more of a traditional Mexican nature is carried out. I guess is a terrible way to put it, but it's much more of a Mexican town. I don't know how typical it is. I haven't been throughout Mexico, but it has that sort of Mexican feel. Businesses are a lot more focused towards the locals. Prices are a lot lower, and it's quite interesting. And I spent 2 weeks in an Airbnb in that part of Colonia, and it was just wonderful. I met lots of people. I luckily discovered the joys of Google Translate, which is really absolutely the most useful tool for anyone who's going to be doing any traveling, in that it was really helpful in sort of live translating any sort of situation that I had to get into, from buying something to asking for a price to directions and all that. And that really helped make me feel a lot better as well. Met lots of interesting people, many expats, some of whom were just retirees who spent half a year there. Maybe they owned a place, or they're visiting for a couple of months. A fair number of what I guess I would call sort of COVID refugees, who'd left for various reasons, some of them very similar to me. Great food and great climate. And for me, that's one of the biggest things, because I'm really one of those people I'm very strongly affected by just the lack of any sunlight during the winter months here. And I mean, to go from that, and I'd known it before because I'd been to Cuba, and I've been to Mexico as well a couple of times. To go from that to a climate where it's sunny all the time. I mean, literally, it rained twice during my 2 week stay, was overcast a couple of afternoons, but bright, sunny weather, beautiful temperature. It was 28 to 30 degrees every single day. It just completely changes my outlook of life. It gives me so much more energy and interest that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And I mean, the other thing that's of interest as well is, I think that how should I put it? For me anyway, I think that the weather, along with the lockdowns, just made things that much harder here, because the natural tendency that you have as a Canadian is to sort of isolate yourself in winter anyway a lot more, and it just got much more extreme. And it was wonderful to go somewhere where that was not the case, where people were still out, generally maskless, with the exception of retail, which I was used to because it was the same thing as here. And that was just wonderful. I mean, the other thing, of course, is the prices are very reasonable there compared to Canada, which is wonderful. And it's also a wonderful thing because it allows someone like myself, who I'm in the position now where I'm still sort of years away from retiring, um, to look at possibilities that would actually be doable, to have a good quality of life and actually live. Because I worry more and more, to a large extent, based on what I've experienced over the last 2 years, that we're not going to be allowed to live to the same degree that we were able to before. And it comes as a shock to someone who grew up thinking that, that would never change. And who knows? But I mean, myself, I think that it may have. So, I mean, what to do? Well, I figured I'm going to explore and figure out how I can plan my escape, how I can leave the situation that I no longer like and move to one that I do like. And this is the first episode, the first installment of me trying to do that. Now, what am I going to do in terms of the show? The focus is going to be Mexico, at least initially. There's so much of that country that I really totally want to explore. I've always been extremely fascinated with archaeology and with ancient history. And the whole of Mesoamerica is just one of the most fantastic places for that. I've been lucky enough to have visited Chichen Itza before, and also Coba and Tulum, which is a much smaller room, all of which were great. I am totally looking forward to at some point going to Mexico City, which everyone I've talked to has just said it's blown their minds. And there's so much to explore there. And in Central America, I mean, I'm becoming more and more interested in that. South America, Southeast Asia. But the other thing that was interesting, and I noticed, and it sort of focuses back to why my focus is on Mexico, is that if you look at what has sort of transpired over the last little while, and now we'll do a little news section of this, is that Mexico, unlike all of the other countries in the world, I think it was one or two others, were the only ones who didn't shut down because of that unspecified virus of unknown origin. Hat tip to the critical drinker for coining this absolutely great description of things. And what have the results of it been? Well, the result was that Mexico is now the number 2 destination in the world. The only country that gets more visitors at the moment is France, which is shocking. I think it went way up, and the reason why it went way up was because it didn't lock down. And looking forward to what's likely to happen over the next few years, I think that, especially with what's going on in unspecified countries, I think that chances are it will also be the one who doesn't lock down in the future. So if part of what I want to get away from is that seems to be a natural place to focus on first. So I will be covering, when I find something interesting like this stat, that kind of stuff. Now, what other kind of stuff am I likely to be doing? Well, obviously, having watched a fair amount of YouTube and looked at what works and what doesn't work, one of the most engaging things I find are long form conversations where people just talk about things as they would naturally, and let a conversation go sort of in an unformatted way. And so what I'm going to try to do is really set up interviews with people who can help answer questions that I have as someone who's thinking of trying to get myself over there, but also might be of interest to you. So to give you an idea, I'm going to be talking to expats and asking them really critical questions like, what's the best beer? I've got my ideas. Everyone's got their ideas. But I mean, that might be a facetious way of just saying, what's life like? What do you like? What do you dislike? What are the challenges? What are the rewards? And I think that'll be interesting. I've got one person lined up already, and I was talking to a friend who was nice enough to suggest someone else who lives in another country, which is great because I'm not going to just focus on Mexico. It will be my chief focus, but obviously I'm keeping options open. And so I'm hoping to speak regularly to expats about their lives, why they moved, and hear their stories because I watch that kind of stuff and I just find it fascinating. Um, what else? Well, the next thing, real estate. Obviously, everyone's got somewhere, you got to have somewhere to live. What are the ins and outs of the real estate market? What's important to know beforehand? Um, what do you want to know to not get caught with your pants down? How can you find a deal? Because I'm very much always looking for bargains. If you've followed my channel at all, you know that another series that I like to run, and there will be ones coming up, is basically sort of cheapskate guides to various things. I think the next few I'm going to do in Toronto while I'm here, once the weather improves a little bit, or even if it doesn't. Um, but um, so that'll be another one that I'll look at. I also have reached out to someone else who I met during my last trip, who I'm going to talk to about the sort of general market, specifically in Puerto Morelos, for Airbnbs. So that should be really interesting. I stayed in one, and I know this individual who I met under really interesting circumstances when I went out snorkeling. He actually acts as a concierge for a bunch of Airbnbs and does tours and stuff like that. So that should be a really fun talk. Um, and also, hopefully, while I'm in the midst of trying to nudge him to do it, and hopefully you're watching now, Frank. But a friend of mine who's a real estate agent, to get a real good, clear idea of what the opportunities are, what kind of things are out there, do's and don'ts, and all that kind of stuff. Um, I'm also going to probably try to find someone who knows something about the sort of residency requirements, visas, and all these kind of things, because that's a really big issue, especially in Mexico, where I'm guessing just based on the larger influx of people that have come in, I've heard that they've gotten a lot tighter with their visas. But this affects a lot of other countries as well. So I'm hopefully going to reach out to some people who will help me better understand the ins and outs of that whole kettle of fish. And that should be really interesting, informative, and hopefully fun as well. And beyond that, um, I don't know. I'm going to look. If you'll look right there, and this is one of the reasons why I love Mexico. These two photos here, and they really explain everything about Mexico to me. Is my Airbnb, as I said, was in that part of town called Colonia. Beautiful place. I had absolutely no regrets, no issues. The beautiful mural on the right side of the picture was on the wall of the Airbnb, which is very nice. I find the graffiti mostly that I see in Mexico is pretty graffiti. It's not tagging and whatever. And on the left was the favorite local wildlife. In the middle of one of the the big boulevard, not too far away from where the municipal building was, one of the local residents had his cow out grazing on the meridian. And so I saw this thing a number of times. I was unable to get him to moo at me. I guess that doesn't work with cows. But anyway, I just I just thought I'd show you him and really dedicate this first stream to my friend I don't even know what to call him. Pedro the Clown. I don't even know if it was a male. I think it was a male cow. So I have a feeling that veal is on the menu at some point. Anyway, beyond that, that's about it, I guess, for this first live stream. There will be more to come, as I said. I'm in the process of sort of trying to figure out systems and figure out things. And based on this first podcast, I'll probably make some changes. My lighting seems to look good, so please comment to tell me if you're having issues with the sound or the light and that kind of stuff. If you're wondering why I'm not going to a wider angle, the reason is mostly to do with my webcam and the fact that I can't focus in enough at the moment. But listen, I think this is YouTube, right? I mean, if this becomes more successful, I'll invest and get a better camera. And with a better camera, I can focus tighter. Maybe I'm going to get a green screen, but then I'd need a really big one, obviously. Otherwise, I'd have the same problem. Hopefully, I mean, at the moment I'm producing myself, so all of the boomer mistakes, like the thing at the front, you're gonna see those on a regular basis. And beyond that, I really just want to thank you for listening. Check out some more of my content below. There's quite a bit of different kinds because I've tried this on a number of occasions. I'm also thinking of doing similar live streams on my other channel, which is under my actual name, Martin Hawley, which is my music, which was my other real savior during COVID, during the whole lockdowns, where I really spent a lot of time focused on that and sort of taught myself how to produce and arrange and all that kind of stuff, so you can listen to my music. But getting back to my point, I'm thinking of doing another live stream that's also based on interviews, but with other indie musicians. So that should be interesting, but it's a completely different thing as this thing to this. Sorry about that. Anyway, that's about it for the moment. I'd like to thank you for watching through to the end and listening to me sort of ramble away. If you found it interesting, please like, please comment, please subscribe. There'll be a lot more to come. And on that note, I'm going to say goodbye, adios, until next time. You take care. Bye-bye.